a bipartisan infrastructure deal. It's working its way through Congress. And so some people hear the word bipartisan and they're very excited. They like it. They say, oh my goodness, we're all getting along now. The Republicans, the Democrats, they're going to come together, join hands, sing kumbaya around the campfire, and then suddenly they're going to come to a consensus about what needs to happen politically, policy-wise, in our government. And so that's taking place right now. It's very, very poetic. It's very, very nice. Joe Biden's vision of unity in America is coming true. And so that's one side. The other side is people like me. We go, oh, great. So now they're in cahoots. They're in total agreement that they're going to ram something that we don't like down our throats. Anytime that they're sort of in unanimity on these things, you can better bet it's going to be awful and terrible. And so we're going to talk about it. We're going to jump off with a headline over from the AP. Says that an infrastructure debate finally opens in the Senate now, over $1 trillion. This was just posted an hour ago. I'm clipping this stuff sort of in real time because the debate is taking place literally right now. The Senate is still in session and they're going to be trying to cram through this bill. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is now trying to speed up consideration. $1 trillion bill, saying that Democrats are going to work with Republicans to put together amendments. GOP senators said, yeah, well, we need time to digest the massive bill. It's formally called the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. The proposal clocked in 2,700 pages, my friends. Very, very big bill. Came in late on Sunday, so if you were out there barbecuing with your friends and family, you may have missed it. Hurry up and wait. Rare weekend session. They do this stuff at the last minute because they don't want you to know what's in the bill. 2,700 pages. They're going to try to cram it through this week. Schumer said a final vote could be held in, quote, just a matter of days. So you have to ask yourself, right, if we're looking at this bill, it's 2,702 pages, and they're going to pass it in a couple days. So that means, like, what do they read? It came out late Sunday. So if you're a senator and you're just reading, well, what do you, 3 days? You've got what? 800, 900 pages. If you're really hustling, maybe 1,000 pages a day, you can get that thing done in under 3 days. Wow, that's pretty good. If you're a senator, now I'm not as intelligent as a lot of the other senators out there, so maybe they can read a lot faster than I could. But a 2,700 page book would take me more than 3 or 4 days to get through it meaningfully. The question is, are they going to read it with any meaning? Probably not. Senate Majority Leader Schumer said, quote, let's start voting on amendments. The longer it takes to finish the bill, the longer we're going to be here. Nobody wants to be in the Senate for too long, especially Chuck Schumer. A key part of Biden's agenda, the bipartisan bill in the first phase of his infrastructure plan, calls for $550 billion new spending over 5 years for all sorts of different stuff. We're going to look at it. Things like roads and bridges and waterworks and broadband and electric grid. And so, you take a look at this stuff and you say, oh, good. Yeah, good. Broadband, that's good. Waterworks, okay, good. Electric grid and roads and bridges, that's all well and good. But you may recall that we've already been spending something like several trillion. Remember, a trillion here, 900 billion here, and the list just goes on and on. And so it's sort of another expense that many people are sort of tired of paying. So let's take a look at what is actually in the bill. As I mentioned, this is 2,702 pages. This is what the top of it looks like. You can see a number of different amendments are going to be working their way through. We got Miss Sinema over here. We have Mr. Portman, Mr. Manchin, Cassidy's in the House, Lisa Murkowski from Alaska, Mr. Romney's in the House, Miss Collins, of course, right? These are all of the Republicans that are going to have to jump over, cross the aisle a little bit. This is bipartisan. This is unity. And so we've got, a lot of Republicans here who are going to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem, if you take their word for it. So it's the usual suspects, right? All of the squishy Republicans that we call them here on the show. Romney, Collins, Murkowski. Sinema's a Democrat. We've got, those are really the big three. And the Republicans are not in control of the Senate, right? The Democrats are. So they just need a couple of them to come on board, and then they'll be able to ram this thing down your throat. Joe Biden's very excited about this. He says, Listen, folks, the bottom line is this. Bipartisan infrastructure deal is a blue-collar blueprint to rebuild America that's going to help our historic economic recovery, a long-term boom. So he's very excited about it. And he's talking big picture, like big picture, historic economic recovery, long-term boom. We'll see. A lot of people have some doubts about where this is going, but Joe Biden's very excited about it. Kamala Harris now She's talking about jobs and lead pipes. So that's where she's coming from. So bipartisan infrastructure deal is going to create jobs, replace our nation's lead pipes. That means clean drinking water for millions of families. That's good. I don't disagree with clean drinking water. I think that's a good thing. Also, it's going to create jobs. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of jobs out there. It's kind of difficult to find the employees. So she's going to be creating more jobs. There's, I think, a lack of employees for many small businesses. But okay, so Kamala's on top of it. And I'm really excited that she's working on this infrastructure thing because she's going to do as good a job as she did on the southern border. So we're excited about that. We got the Secretary of Transportation over here. Pete Buttigieg is in the House, says that the president is keeping his promises to fix our infrastructure. He's going to work across the aisle to do so. He says it's an extraordinary opportunity for our communities and our democracy. All right. We got Klobuchar over here, says so much hard work, dedication, and effort has gone into this package. It's going to expand broadband, clean drinking water, repair our bridges, and so much more. Let's get it across the finish line. And so, at this point, you sort of ask yourself, you have to sort of reduce this down to the most pertinent question that many of us has. What is the role of government? What is government supposed to be doing? Are they supposed to be expanding broadband and providing clean drinking water and repairing our bridges? Many people say, yeah, because these are sort of the tried and true infrastructure, components of government. The stuff that is too big for the private sector for people to do individually for themselves. That's when you bring the government in. So, for example, right? It's hard for a state to build a national military because it's just one state. Arizona can't really do that. California can't really do that. We can build our own National Guards and our own different law enforcement agencies, but to be able to provide for the defense of an entire nation, you say, well, that's kind of a government thing. So you might want to take that out and say, okay, the military is what the government does. Same thing with stuff like immigration. You might say, well, the government is responsible, the federal government, for protecting the borders. And so maybe an infrastructure package there that might be justified would be something like a border wall, which has sort of been defunded. But then you look at other things like drinking water and repairing our bridges, and you sort of ask yourself, right, is that a federal responsibility? Are the feds competent enough to go into every little community and make sure that everybody's got clean drinking water? Or is that something that should be left to the communities? Should the federal government be repairing the bridges, or should that be something that's left for local government? Same with broadband and some of these things. Or is this the federal government encroaching into these different sectors so that they can sort of replace some of the private sector support that might be in that industry, in that locality? So you can have a lot of debates about this. A different representative, Ken Buck over here, says the bill is 2,700 pages long, costs $1.2 trillion. Senate released it last night, wants to pass it this week. How is this reasonable? He says. Right, very good question. Very good question. And when you go through the bill, you're going to see there's a lot in here. I did a quick search of a couple different terms that are floating around in this thing. If you take a look at the word school, right, you're going to see it's in there, 2,702 pages. The word school was mentioned 218 times, so a lot of school stuff. A lot of water stuff, 779 different entries for water. We also have bridge 131 times and road 900 times. So some pretty big numbers in there, right? For the stuff that you might expect. Things like schools, waters, bridges, and roads, which is what they're all excited about. Some other language that you kind of see snuck in here a little bit. Well, we got the word equity. Lot of equity in here. And remember, equity was sort of the new buzzword that we just heard. At least it became more popular, more pertinent during the Biden administration and really during the last campaign. Remember, we started to see the difference between the word equality and the word equity. Equality meaning that sort of everybody has, the same starting points and that everybody can, go out into the world and mix their labor with the world and their resources and create what would be the fruits of their labor. That would be something that they could receive and enjoy. Now you compare and contrast that to equity, which means it doesn't really matter where you started. We're going to make sure that essentially everybody's crossing the finish line at the same time. Doesn't matter how fast you ran or how much exercise you did to condition yourself for that race. We want to make sure that everything is equitable as we cross that line. And so a lot of people start to see that and they say, oh, well, that very clearly sounds like a redistribution. We're going to take from some segments of society and redistribute those to other segments of society. And it starts to raise some concerns. And that word is in there a lot. In fact, they have a whole section of this bill that we're going to see that is sort of the Digital Equity Act. Okay, so a lot is going on in here. Police is also in here 3 times, not as much as I was expecting, but they are certainly in here. We have coronavirus, that word popped up 14 times in here. The word race is also in here 9 times. Tax, 94 times. A lot of that has to do with some tax evasion and things like that. Gender identity is defined, or it's referencing a different part of the U.S. Code 2 times in this document. Law enforcement is in here 16 times. And the word court is in here 22 times, right? And so those are just some of the words that I was toying around with. And you can certainly spend some time going through this bill. There's 2,700 pages and dig into it. We're not going to do that. Let me run through the table of contents. And there's like 15 to 20 slides of this. We're not going to go through it all, but I just want to show you the size of this thing. We're only looking at the table of contents. Let's take a look here. Title I, federal aid for highways. A lot of stuff for highways. Let's see what's going on in here. Authorization and programs for just highways. This is all for highways. So we've got toll roads, Alaska highways, congestion mitigation, air quality improvement programs, probably a few billion for that. Public transportation, we got bicycle stuff. Let's see what else. Work zone, process review, a lot's going on there. And it just keeps going. More transportation. We got climate change. So we have grants for charging and fueling infrastructure. We got a carbon reduction program, a congestion relief program, all going to be funded by this new infrastructure bill. Different miscellaneous things like Buy America, which is a good talking point. Bridge terminology, got to define that. We got research technology now. This is for transportation and infrastructure. We got a section for Indian affairs, multimodal and freight transportation. Big transportation bill. You can see a lot of rail here, a lot of Amtrak reforms. So improved oversight of Amtrak accounting, improved oversight of Amtrak spending, okay? An Amtrak smoking policy. The federal government needs to be involved in that. Creating quality jobs, enhancing cross-border service, all of that. All right, so that's all in rails. We got motor carrier stuff, right? So this is for trucking, underwriting, protection, providers of recreational activities. Oh, we have a limousine research section here. So the federal government is going to be funding some limousine research, just so length and comforts and probably some carbon equity stuff going on there as well. So some limousine research is going to be going on in this bill. What else do we have? Highway and motor vehicle safety. We got research and innovation. Let's see what we're going to be innovating on with our research. How about this? Strengthening mobility and revolutionizing transportation. Okay, so doesn't really say anything there. Local hiring, hazardous materials. All right, nothing much substantive there. How about this? We have sport fish restoration. Okay, bus testing facilities. Definitely need more of those. We should. It's like a grocery store list. Let's see what we got for energy here. Sweetie, can you get some more state energy security plans? Yep, and the state energy program. Sure, honey, I'll get some of those for you. How about the Columbia Basin Power Management? Those are on aisle 7. So cybersecurity's here. We have the cybersecurity plan, enhanced grid security. So they've done a pretty terrible job of this, so maybe that money will be useful for something. I'm going to guess not. We got supply chain management. We got some hydrogen research. Oh, this is good. Carbon utilization programs, carbon capture technology, carbon dioxide transportation, all going on here. Hydropower, which is good stuff. Energy infrastructure. Look, folks, it just keeps going. I honestly can't even make a show of this. What am I talking? Look at this. It just keeps going. Methane reduction infrastructure. So that's good. Probably a few billion for that. Abandoned mine reclamation. That's good. So abandoned mine reclamation fees. So we have a bunch of mines that are abandoned apparently. And so, okay. Wildlife. All right. So, you know how this, you know how these things go is it's the most boring thing to talk about on a show. And what ends up happening is I go through this and I rip on something and then somebody's going to send me an email and say, hey, that's very important. That's my job right there. So I don't want to offend anybody. There are people who are watching this going, hey, that's mine. That's my line item. I need that. I have an abandoned mine, Rob. So what are you talking about? I need that federal money to go reclaim my mine or something like that. So, I'm having a hard time even looking through this, but we got clean water, which is very good. A whole section here. We have tribal connectivity, broadband affordability are also here, which is good because we know that previously that Joe Biden and I think Kamala Harris said that a lot of certain demographics in this country have a very difficult time getting on the internet. Said that it was Joe Biden said that minorities in rural areas couldn't even get on the internet, really, which was news to me because I didn't know that the president was that racist, but apparently he is. And then Kamala said that they don't have anything like Kinko's. They can't make copies of their photo ID. So very, very troubling there. What else is in here? We've got to Make America stuff, Make It in America, which is always good. Buy American. We have buyamerican.gov is going to be formed. So we'll see how much they stick to that. We have a chemical super fund and some other things. And my friends, that's just the table of contents. There is another 2,695 pages or so that you can read through, and you can just see what's going on in here. Do you expect any congressperson to read this? No, because this is just a grocery list. That's all it is. All these congresspeople do is they say, hey, I need this, and I need this, and I need this, and if you get me that, then I'll go ahead and sign it. And so they go around and they just, okay, well, what do you need there, Mitt Romney in Utah? Well, we got some mines there that need to be reclaimed, and they're abandoned. And so they slap that into the bill. And everybody just says, oh, that sounds good. I want some of that. Throw that in there. So nobody, of course, is going to read it. They're just going to go through it and pass it. And you're going to pay for it. We're all going to pay for it. And if you recall what happened with this last time, there was actually when we went through the bill, they had a lot of this where they were talking specifically about line item by line item. It'd be like 900 million for Sudan, 500 million for this other country. And the list went on and on and on. So it was not a surprise. Now, the question is, it sounds like the Senate is going to pass this thing. The next question is, what's the House of Representatives going to do with this? Are they actually going to pass this into law? Because remember, we've got two different bodies of governance here. We have the Senate and we have the House of Representatives. In the House of Representatives, they're saying, we're not passing that thing unless you pass our other, bigger, more expensive spending bill. So I want to show you this woman. Her name is Rep. Jayapal from Washington. She says, listen, we're not voting on that. I don't care if it's bipartisan or not. We are not going to be funding this thing because it is not good enough. Here is what she told Wolf Blitzer earlier today.
Well, we have said for 3 months, Wolf, and we've been very clear, I don't think anybody would be surprised, that we are not voting for a bipartisan infrastructure package without the reconciliation package that funds our progressive priorities. We made that very clear. Nobody should be surprised by that. We took a whip count almost a month and a half ago, and over 60% of our caucus felt that they could already say that they were completely with us. And we had a lot of people who, said, that's likely to be my position, but I want to wait and see. So there is a significant number of progressives in the House who will not vote for a bipartisan package without the reconciliation package. That is what Speaker Pelosi has said as well, and we're going to stick to that. The Senate wanted to do a bipartisan package. That's fine, Wolf, but there are two chambers in the United States Congress. The House of Representatives has 435 people, and each of us represents a district, and we want to make sure that this recovery is done in such a way that women, that folks of color, that poor people, working people have childcare, have paid leave, have access to higher education and community college, have health care in the midst of a crisis that is still not going away with the pandemic, and of course that we address climate change and immigration. So we are not backing off of that, and I think the Senate should understand that that is our position, has been our position, will be our position.
All right, so she's basically saying, yeah, no, it's not. I mean, it's not going anywhere. We'll see, right? I think that a lot of these stubborn Democrats in the House of Representatives are very likely to cave. Nancy Pelosi is very good about this, right? If the Republicans pass this thing, here, a little bit of framing on this, right? There are two infrastructure bills that are sort of working their way through the system. And recall that in order for a new bill to land on Biden's desk, we've got to have an agreement between both the Senate and the House of Representatives. And so right now, we've got a bipartisan agreement in the Senate, but we also have another sort of, complementary bill in the House of Representatives that's way bigger, that has all of the things that AOC and Cori Bush and this woman, they all want in it. And so they're saying, if you want us to vote yes on the Senate bill, well, you got to give us the reconciliation. You have to give us this other bill, and they can do it through a process of reconciliation where they can sort of merge the changes between the Senate and the House of Representatives into one final bill. So we'll see where it goes. Let's take some questions over from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And we had a super chat come in as well over on YouTube. Let's pull that one back up. Let's see here. We have one from a Vault Formulae, always forward, a Vault Formali. Always forward. Love that. Says lots of open jobs because people are finally wanting a fair wage for being treated like crap, i.e. the food service industry. Love the show. It's good to see you, Evolve. That's an interesting perspective on that, right? So I think that a lot of people in the food service industry would probably agree with that, right? I think a lot of people are in that position right now, saying, "Well, I'm not going to go back to work. I'm getting money from the government, and I haven't been working, and I don't want to go do that anymore. And it's COVID, and so now I'm going to not work." And so I've heard of that. I've heard a lot of people, the response, "Well, just pay them more," and hard to do when businesses have been closed for a long time. So it's a very complicated issue, Evolve, and I appreciate you being here. Yeah, we'll see how it sorts itself out. Good to see you. Let's see what else. We've got some questions here from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Let me, forgot to queue these up here a little bit. Let me scroll back. I see Sharon's here. I also see it's Ed's in the house. So let's pull this over here and we'll get started on this topic here. Okay, so it's Ed is here with a long comment. I want to jump into this. As Rob, it's funny how Trump didn't need any kind of infrastructure bill to stimulate the economy. The left always needs the government to do so. When was the last time it worked? Who's going to pay for this? Sick and tired of every penny going to the government. They steal from us. All right, jobs. I turn down more work than I can take. I can't hire new dispatchers. No one wants to work. Why would they? The government is giving them $1,200 a week. Equity, I work 14-hour days, 6 days a week. I hear you, Ed. Oh my gosh. I built something amazing. For the first 3 years, I barely made payroll. I took personal loans. Where was the idea of equity then? Where was the government then? Did they tell me I didn't have to pay the payroll taxes? Why are we promoting this idea of you don't have to work hard to succeed? I guess when the government supports you, don't have to work hard. Maybe I'm the dumb one. Sorry, Rob. Don't mean to get heated. I'm sick of these people making it harder to justify living where I live. I hear you. It's Ed. I completely agree with you on everything that you just said. It's very, very frustrating. It's a very difficult thing as a small business owner to navigate these waters. And then on top of it all, you add in just a constant 18 months, another 12 months of just raw uncertainty. Open, closing, masking, unmasking, new variants. Does it work? Does it not work? And it is very difficult to run a small business, which is part of the trajectory here. Who cares about the small businesses when you got Amazon, Facebook, and Twitter that are gobbling up all of everything anyways, right? We have no doubt here says, can you do a search on the word boom boom stick? See if they snuck in a funding to study boom boom stick violence or develop plans for combating boom boom sticks. I didn't search for that one. It's a good one. I should have searched for that one. Good to see you here. No doubt. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know if that's in there. We got Sharon Quidney's here says, we ought to get Greenpeace or ALF or PETA on this one because it looks to me like pigs will be extinct by the time they make their way through all this pork. That's from Sharon Quidney in the house. Good to see you, Sharon. Yeah, lots of bacon in there, but not the good kind, the ugly kind that the politicians like. We have Peely Wally is in the house, says, hey, Rob, hope you had a great weekend. What a lot of complete waffle in that bill. You can tell Biden has had something to do with it since it's so tedious to go through. Peely Wally is in the house. Hope you had a great weekend too, Peely Wally. I did. You can see I sort of moved some stuff around in the studio and we're back in business. We're ready to rock and roll. Grateful that you're here. We also have Want to Know says infrastructure ready jobs. Yeah. How about Keystone Pipeline and Border Wall? Better high-paying union jobs. Seems the government wants to control everything. That's from Want to Know. I think that's a good point there, Want to Know. LT13 is here, says, buyamerica.gov, and they ship it to you from China. Probably. It's probably going to be the case. Maybe it'll come with a Hunter Biden artwork print. Fungus and milk. How about that? That'd be nice. It's Ed says, why do they keep saying have health care? Everyone has access to healthcare. You have to just pay for it, as you should. If I lack self-control and refuse to stay active, stay healthy, and have healthy issues for it, I should have to pay for those decisions. If they don't own a business, they shouldn't be allowed to work for the government. It's good to see you, it's Ed. You're hot, man, and I get it. I get it, too. It feels very frustrating that you have to continually sort of watch the government. When you read these bills, they just sort of round it. It's like tip money to them. $100 million for this organization, $500 million to that organization. It's all a bunch of little piglets at the trough, just gobbling this all up. I mean, it's called pork for a reason, folks, because they are fat little pigs over there. Ransacking the treasury at your expense and your children's expense. Come on, man, is here, says the Senate bill wants less money infrastructure bill, while the House of Congress wants a bigger bill. How about no more bill, and that means no more printing money? Yeah, the inflation numbers. Well, we're going to see where that goes. Still a lot of roadway on that one left. We'll see where that one goes. And Federal Unemployment Tax Act is here. Says they say that the money is going to infrastructure projects. The money is going towards pork barrel BS as well as corporate welfare. For example, the U.S. spent $1.6 trillion, yet one plane got shot down, but an out-of-date SAM site, and still in the development phase. So why would people believe the federal government will spend the money well? They don't. I don't believe that for a second. I don't believe that for a minute, right? And I think a lot of these stimulus, handouts, would have been better served in the forms of tax reductions and tax breaks and sort of, allowing the economy to do its thing. But that doesn't satiate the people in power, does it? So, all right. So great questions. I think that's it on that segment from watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And I appreciate all of your support over there and, of course, on YouTube. We had another question come in. Let's see. Okay, let's see here. So we had another question come in. We'll get to that one before we jump into the next segment. Let's see. That one is from Just Cause. It says, side question here. How do you feel about someone in big tech needing to address as a pseudonym to save views on the internet because of job loss? So it's a good question there, and that's from Just Cause. Just Cause, I think that I don't have any particular problem with pseudonyms. There it is. It's on the screen. I don't have any problems with pseudonyms. I think that there's a bit of a problem with people being unable to sort of speak freely out there, right? Because of all of these repercussions. And I have a big problem with that, right? I think that certainly if you associate your identity with your speech, there's a lot of power behind that, right? Jordan Peterson talks a lot about this, and I think Naval talks a lot about this if you're into those two people. Naval says very regularly that you're going to be rewarded for that, right? If you're going to take a big, strong stand, you're going to get a lot of slings and arrows, but you're also going to get a lot of people who say, hey, that's pretty admirable, right? That person speaking their mind, they're standing for something, they're fighting for what they believe in, and you get benefits that flow from that. You also get a lot of flack, right? So in your case, Just Cause, you might lose your job if you speak out without a pseudonym. But the question is, what happens if you don't speak, right? There are penalties for that as well. There are consequences of speaking. There are consequences for not speaking. And so people have to balance these different things. They do an analysis and they might say that a pseudonym is not a bad thing, right? It's a lot of precedent for this in our history. People write books anonymously or pseudo-anonymously, right? Our founding fathers did this during in the Federalist Papers and other documents. So I think there's some pretty good precedent for that. And if that's something that allows you to speak while also protecting some of your economic and other interests, I think that's a good way to communicate out there on the internet. Great question, Just Cause. Thank you for that. All right, so thanks so much for watching. Before you head out, I want to just remind you that I am a criminal defense lawyer here in Scottsdale, Arizona, where my team and we've got a long history of helping good people facing criminal charges to find safety, clarity, and hope in their cases and beyond that in their lives. Our phone number for a free case evaluation is 480-787-0394. You can also find us online at www.rrlawaz.com. We can help with any type of criminal charge in the state of Arizona. Things like DUI, drug offenses, misdemeanor offenses. And we can also help with clearing up old case records, like expunging cases or making sure that you can restore your rights so that you can vote again or possess a firearm again or apply for some other federal benefits. We can remove mugshots off the internet. Basically, anytime that you or somebody you know or love is in trouble with the law in the state of Arizona, we have an amazing team of people. We would just love the opportunity to help. And our phone number, of course, 480-787-0394. And if you don't need any legal services, that's a very good thing, but you may be interested in some informational offerings so that you are prepared if you do have to deal with the police. And of course, I want to invite you to head on over to gumroad.com/Robert Gruler. You'll notice here, I've got several different trainings that are available, including the law enforcement interaction training. This is the 1, 2, 3 rule for dealing with the police. It's one rule you need, 2 questions that the police can ask of you, and 3 responses if they ask you a problematic question. So that's available now. You can also get a load at my personal productivity system here called Existence Systems. Fun little course. And then we have here, if you're a lawyer or a legal professional, be sure to check out this program. We are meeting twice every month. Again, all of this over at gumroad.com/Robert Gruler. And if none of that sounds any good to you, well, just go ahead and give us a follow, because I'm working on some other products and some other offerings. And of course, if you have not already done so, want to invite you one more time to head on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. It's where you can support the show, and it's where we can connect. We've got monthly Zoom meetings and a lot of other goodies coming up. So I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for watching, and for all of your love and support. I will see you on the next one.